1.36 billion. That's the quiet number behind today's shock. Last year, over 1 billion low-value parcels moved into the United States under a rule called the de minimis exemption. That rule just changed, and for thousands of Canadian small businesses, the consequences are immediate. What happened? A policy that let packages under USD $800 cross the border without duties has been suspended. Overnight, shipments that once cleared freely may now face new duties, extra handling fees, and customs paperwork. For a small maker who sells a $25 print or a $40 sweater, a sudden $20, $50 fee per package can erase the margin on the entire order. Who pays? The seller or the buyer? Neither answer is good. Picture a Vancouver clothing label that counted half its online sales from US shoppers. Picture a boutique florist whose wedding orders crossed the border weekly. Picture an illustrator whose prints head to American fans. Now ask yourself, how many of those businesses can survive a surprise cost hike they didn't budget for? This is the setup. Tight margins, thin staff, customers across the border who expect low shipping costs, and now a new rule that makes cross-border commerce unpredictable. There's more. Carriers and postal services are reacting fast. Some have temporarily suspended U.S. deliveries while they recalibrate. Platforms and fulfillment partners are updating their checkout rules. The logistics pipeline that felt routine has suddenly become a minefield of forms, fees, and delays. In Ottawa, that's the next big question. Will Canada step in with guidance, subsidies, or practical workaround? Or will small businesses be left to navigate customs bureaucracy on their own? In this 5-part series, we'll move from the headline to the numbers, then into 3 real storefronts to see the choices owners make. We'll hear from experts about what the rule change legally means, and we'll end with practical survival moves you can use today. If you sell cross-border, drop your city in the comments. I'll be tracking where the pressure is worst. Next, a clear explainer of de minimis and the data that shows just how big this change really is. Stay with me. To understand why this matters, you need to know what the de minimis exemption actually was. For decades, it worked like a hidden lifeline for cross-border sellers. If your package going into the US was worth less than $800, it sailed through. No tariffs, no customs delays, just a smooth transaction that gave Canadian entrepreneurs a chance to reach American buyers without adding costs that could wipe out their profits. That system became the backbone of online commerce. From 134 million packages in 2015 to more than 1.3 billion by 2024, de minimis wasn't a minor technicality. It was the quiet engine of a booming e-commerce trade. Imagine Etsy shops, indie fashion labels, home crafters, skincare startups, even bookstores, all shipping under that threshold. Together, they built reliable business models on the promise that low-value exports would remain frictionless. Now, that promise is gone. With a single executive order, every small parcel under $800 is suddenly under scrutiny. Tariffs can run up to $200 depending on the goods. Add handling fees and new customs forms, and you have a system where a $50 hoodie may arrive at an American doorstep with an unexpected $20 surcharge. What happens next? Buyers hesitate. Some cancel orders. Others complain about hidden costs. Sellers are left deciding, absorb the fees and slash margins, or pass them on and risk losing loyal customers. The numbers tell us why this is dangerous. Nearly half of online orders for many Canadian shops flow south to the US. In some cases, 70-90% of total sales depend on American customers. When that pipeline clogs, it isn't a nuisance. It's an existential threat. And there's a deeper question here. Was this policy change only about fairness? U.S. officials argued the system was abused by low-cost shippers overseas, sneaking in counterfeit goods or even opioids. Cleaning that up makes sense. But in doing so, the policy also hits small, legitimate businesses, the ones who can't afford to reroute through expensive warehouses or lawyers. So where does this leave us? Next, we'll step into real storefronts and hear from owners making painful choices. Stop shipping, eat the costs, or gamble on survival. Let's bring this down from numbers and policy to people and choices. Take Free Label, a Vancouver-based clothing brand. For years, half of its online sales came from U.S. customers, loyal buyers who loved the brand's commitment to ethical fashion and North American-made fabrics. But when the de minimis exemption disappeared, the math collapsed. A hoodie that once shipped seamlessly now carried unpredictable duties. Owner Jess Sternberg made the call, stop all U.S. shipments. It wasn't about preference. It was about survival. She described it bluntly. And the margins were too thin, the fees too high, and the uncertainty too great. Now shift to St. Catharines, Ontario. Cheekbone Beauty, a cosmetics company known for its indigenous leadership and growing international base. Founder Jen Harper chose a different path. She decided to absorb the costs, at least for now. It meant shaving already thin margins, but she feared cutting off U.S. customers entirely could do longer-term damage. Her words carried a warning. It's a huge risk, We can't sustain this forever. That's the gamble. Short-term loyalty versus long-term solvency. Then there's Elena White, running a quirky card and gift shop in Toronto. For her, nearly all orders are under $800 she ships to the U.S. multiple times a week. But even a $5 greeting card now triggers new duties and handling fees that can triple the cost. For White, the choice was simpler, if painful: suspend U.S. shipping altogether. Even if it doesn't bankrupt us, she explained, any blow to the business hurts. 3 owners. 3 different choices. 1 reality. Each of these stories captures the same dilemma. How do you continue selling when rules flip overnight? Pause shipments and lose revenue? Keep shipping and bleed money? Or gamble that customers will accept higher prices? And it's not just boutique shops. Fulfillment partners, carriers, even global postal systems, from Japan to Switzerland, have suspended or restructured their U.S. deliveries. The ripple effects are everywhere. So, what do trade experts and lawyers say about this? Is there a legal workaround, or is it just survival mode? In the next section, we'll dig into the expert view and the bigger clash between Washington's decisive enforcement and Ottawa's uncertain response. Behind the headlines and storefront struggles lies a bigger story: power, trade, and politics. Washington didn't stumble into this. U.S. officials framed the crackdown on de minimis as a matter of fairness and security. They argued that the loophole was being exploited, not just by fast fashion giants flooding the market with cheap imports, but by smugglers moving counterfeit products and even illicit substances. By tightening the rules, America could claim it was protecting domestic producers, safeguarding consumers, and closing a door to abuse. But here's the catch. In solving one problem, they created another. Thousands of legitimate small exporters, particularly Canadian ones, became collateral damage. Unlike massive corporations with US-based warehouses and compliance teams, small businesses don't have the scale to adapt overnight. So where's Ottawa in this? That's where the silence grows louder. Trade experts point out that Canada has tools it could use: emergency coordination with Washington, subsidies for small exporters, or at minimum clear communication on how to handle customs compliance under the new rules. But instead, business owners say they're left refreshing government websites for updates that never come. Lawyers and analysts add another layer. Some argue Canada should have anticipated this. U.S. lawmakers have debated de minimis reform for years, warning about foreign exploitation. Canada, as the U.S.'s top trading partner, should have had a contingency plan. Instead, it's playing catch-up, and the consequences aren't only economic. Every day Canadian sellers lose orders, U.S. competitors gain ground. When in Ontario, clothing brand stops shipping, an American label fills that gap. When a Toronto stationery shop suspends cross-border orders, a Seattle printer picks them up. The longer Ottawa hesitates, the more permanent those losses could become, which raises the bigger question: is this just a trade policy tweak, or is it a warning shot about how fragile Canada's access to U.S. markets really is? In the final section, we'll shift from analysis to action. What survival strategies are still on the table for Canadian sellers? And what can businesses do today, while waiting for Ottawa to decide whether it will act at all? For Canadian sellers, the crisis is real. But survival doesn't always mean waiting on Ottawa. Some businesses are already testing new strategies, each with risks and trade-offs. One option is rerouting. By setting up fulfillment centers inside the U.S., companies can ship bulk inventory across once, clear customs in advance, and then deliver domestically. It's costly, especially for small shops, but it bypasses the unpredictable duties on individual parcels. Larger indie brands are exploring this, but for tiny operations, the overhead could be crushing. Another approach is product restructuring. Some sellers are redesigning catalogs to focus on higher value items that can absorb the tariff hit. For example, a $200 artisanal jacket with a $30 duty may still feel worth it to a buyer, but a $25 greeting card with a $15 surcharge never will. That means trimming product lines, shifting marketing, and betting on customers willing to pay more. Others are turning to digital pivots. Businesses built on physical goods are exploring subscription models, online classes, or licensing intellectual property, income streams that don't cross a border. It won't replace all lost revenue, but it can cushion the blow while trade rules remain uncertain. And then there's collective pressure. Trade lawyers argue that if enough businesses band together, Ottawa may finally be forced to move. Petitions, industry coalitions, chambers of commerce, these aren't just formalities. They're signals that small businesses, often overlooked, represent a massive share of Canada's economic fabric. But even with strategies on the table, the atmosphere is tense. The truth is, there's no clear resolution yet. Ottawa hasn't unveiled a rescue plan. Washington shows no sign of softening. And every day, more Canadian entrepreneurs ask themselves the same question: can I survive another month of this? The story isn't finished. it's still unfolding in warehouses, storefronts, and living rooms across the country. The collapse of de minimis wasn't just a technical trade tweak, it was a stress test for the resilience of Canada's small businesses. So the question hangs, will Canadian innovation find a way through, or will silence from the top let an entire generation of entrepreneurs be priced out of their biggest market?